Hello, beautiful people. You've just landed on Ben 10 What If. Today's featured story is What If Ben 10 Was Vilgax's son. If you're new here, welcome to the family. Hit subscribe and the notification bell. And if you're returning, you know the drill, like and share. Enough talk, let's get into the story. Chapter 1, The Truth in the Stars. The rust bucket rattled along the dusty highway, its ancient air conditioning fighting a losing battle against the summer heat. Inside, 10-year-old Ben Tennyson pressed his face against the window, boredom etched across his features as farmland and scattered trees blurred past. "Are we there yet?" Ben groaned, sliding down in his seat until his head rested awkwardly against the window frame. His cousin Gwen barely looked up from her book. "You asked that 5 minutes ago. And 5 minutes before that." "Yeah, well, now it's 5 minutes later," Ben shot back, drumming his fingers against the armrest. "How much longer, Grandpa?" Grandpa Max glanced at Ben in the rearview mirror, his eyes crinkling with amusement behind his glasses. "Not much longer to the campsite, sport. Another hour, tops." Ben slumped further. "An hour? I'll die of boredom before then." "You could try reading," Gwen suggested, waving her thick novel. "It's this amazing new technology where you look at words and they make pictures in your brain." "Ha ha." Ben rolled his eyes. "Sorry, not all of us think homework is a fun summer activity, dweeb." Max chuckled from the driver's seat. "How about we stop for a quick break? Stretch our legs, maybe grab a snack." Ben perked up immediately. "Finally. Yes." Max pulled the RV into a small roadside rest area. Nothing special, just a clearing with some picnic tables and the edge of a forest stretching behind it. Ben was the first one out, practically leaping from the vehicle the moment it stopped. "Freedom," he shouted, arms spread wide. "Sweet, sweet freedom." Gwen stepped out more sedately, tucking her book under her arm. "Drama queen much?" "I'm going to explore," Ben declared, already jogging toward the tree line. "Ben," Max called after him, "don't go too far. 10 minutes, then we're back on the road." "Got it." Ben called over his shoulder, already disappearing among the trees. The forest felt alive around him. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, creating dappled patterns on the forest floor. Ben kicked at fallen leaves, imagining he was a famous explorer discovering uncharted territory. Or better yet, a superhero on patrol. "Look out, evildoers," he muttered, karate chopping at an imaginary villain. Ben Tennyson is on the case. Something flashed in the sky above him, a streak of light that vanished behind the trees ahead. Ben froze mid-chop. Whoa, was that a shooting star? In daylight? Curiosity piqued, he pushed deeper into the woods, following the direction of the strange light. The trees grew denser, the ground more uneven. He scrambled over fallen logs and ducked under low-hanging branches until he reached a small clearing. And there it was, a smoking crater in the ground, not much bigger than a kiddie pool. Inside sat a metallic sphere, its surface still glowing red-hot from entry into Earth's atmosphere. "No way," Ben breathed, approaching cautiously. "This is like something straight out of Sumo Slammer's Cosmic Clash." The sphere hissed, releasing pressure, and split open. Ben jumped back, heart hammering in his chest. But instead of aliens emerging to conquer Earth, the pod simply revealed a smaller object nestled inside, a watch-like device with a black and green color scheme. A watch. All this for a watch. Ben leaned closer, squinting at the strange device. It had an unusual face, circular with an hourglass symbol in the center. Something about it seemed to call to him. Like it was meant for him specifically. Without thinking, Ben reached out. "Probably shouldn't touch the weird space watch," he muttered to himself, even as his fingers closed the distance. "Definitely shouldn't." The watch sprang to life, leaping from its container and clamping around Ben's left wrist with a metallic snap. "Gah!" Ben yelped, falling backward onto the forest floor. Get off! Get off! He tugged frantically at the device, trying to pry it loose, but it might as well have been fused to his skin. The center dial glowed green, projecting a small holographic silhouette that looked vaguely humanoid, but definitely not human. "This is so not good," Ben said, scrambling to his feet. "Grandpa Max is going to freak." He turned to run back to the rest area but hesitated, looking down at the watch again. The center dial protruded slightly, almost like it wanted to be pressed or turned. "Well, it's already stuck to me," Ben reasoned. "Might as well see what it does." He pressed the dial and twisted. The watch face popped up, the holographic silhouette changing to a different alien shape. Ben's curiosity overcame his apprehension. He pushed the dial back down. Instantly, energy coursed through his body. It didn't hurt exactly, but it felt weird, like his bones were shifting, his skin changing texture. A bright green flash enveloped him. When the light faded, Ben wasn't Ben anymore. "Whoa!" he exclaimed, his voice deeper and raspier than before. He looked down at his hands, now red, four-fingered, and made of something that looked like molten rock with cracks revealing fiery energy beneath. "I'm on fire. But I don't feel hot." He touched a nearby tree, and the bark immediately began to smolder. Ben pulled back quickly. "Okay, definitely hot to everything else. This is. A grin spread across his fiery face. "This is awesome." Back at the rest area, Max checked his watch with growing concern. "He's been gone 20 minutes. That's twice as long as I told him." Gwen sighed dramatically. Classic Ben. Always doing exactly what you tell him not to do. "I'd better go find him." "You wait in the rust bucket, Gwen." "But, no buts. I don't need both of you wandering in the woods." Before Gwen could protest further, a distant crashing sound came from the forest, followed by the unmistakable crackle of fire. Max tensed, his hand instinctively moving to his hip where, years ago, he would have carried a plumber's weapon. "That doesn't sound good." The crashing grew louder. Trees at the forest edge swayed, and suddenly, a creature burst through, humanoid but clearly not human, its body composed of living flame. "Grandpa!" "Gwen!" the fire creature shouted, waving its arms excitedly. "Check this out!" Gwen screamed, diving behind a picnic table. But Max's reaction was different. He stood his ground, eyes narrowing as he studied the creature. "Ben?" he asked, voice surprisingly calm. The fire being stopped short. "Wait, you can tell it's me." "How'd you know?" "Only you would come bursting out of the woods showing off like that," Max said dryly. "What happened to you?" "I found this weird watch thing in the forest, and when I put it on, boom. Fire dude." Ben demonstrated by shooting a small fireball into the air. "I've got superpowers, Grandpa." "Ben, be careful." Max warned, much more sternly than his usual easygoing self. "You don't know what you're dealing with." Gwen peered out from behind the table. "That's really you, doofus?" "In the fiery flesh." Ben created a tiny flame on the tip of his finger and grinned. "I think I'll call this guy Heat Blast." "You named it already?" Gwen emerged fully, approaching cautiously. "How do you change back?" Ben looked down at himself, the excitement in his expression dimming. "I'm not sure." Max stepped forward, examining the symbol on Ben's chest, the same hourglass design that had been on the watch. "I think that's the control. Try pressing it." Ben touched the symbol, and another flash of green light enveloped him. When it dissipated, 10-year-old Ben stood there once again, the strange watch still attached to his wrist. "Ah man, I wanted to stay Heat Blast longer." Ben complained, then brightened. "But check out this watch thing. It's gotta have more than just the fire guy. I saw other aliens when I was messing with it." Max's expression grew serious. "Ben, where exactly did you find that device?" There was this pod thing that crashed in the woods. The watch was inside. Max ran a hand through his hair, muttering something under his breath that sounded suspiciously like a curse word. We need to get going. Now. What? But I just discovered I can turn into aliens. Ben protested. Don't you want to see what else this thing can do? Later, Max said firmly, ushering both kids toward the rust bucket. Right now, we need to put some miles behind us. Why? Gwen asked, her earlier fear giving way to curiosity. Do you know something about that watch, Grandpa? Max paused, conflict evident in his eyes. I have some theories. But first, we get to safety. Ben exchanged a glance with Gwen. Grandpa Max was acting weird, not at all like his usual laid-back self. Something about the watch had him spooked. As they climbed into the RV, Ben felt a strange tingling at the base of his skull, almost like someone was watching him. He turned, scanning the tree line, but saw nothing unusual. Yet somehow, he knew they weren't alone. The rust bucket sped down the highway well above the speed limit, Max's knuckles white on the steering wheel. Ben sat at the small dining table, experimenting with the watch, which he had already dubbed the Omnitrix because it sounded cool, while Gwen peppered their grandfather with questions. So you're saying aliens are real, you used to be some kind of space police officer called a plumber, and now other aliens might be coming for Ben's watch? Gwen summarized, disbelief evident in her tone. That's about the size of it, Max confirmed grimly. And you never thought to mention any of this before? Gwen pressed. Max sighed. I retired from the plumbers before you were born. I wanted to leave that life behind, give you kids a normal childhood. Ben looked up from the watch. Normal is overrated. This is way cooler. He twisted the dial, cycling through different alien silhouettes. Look at all these guys I can turn into. Ben, this isn't a game, Max warned. That device is one of the most powerful technologies in the galaxy. If it fell to Earth, others will be coming for it. Let them come. Ben declared boldly. I'll just go heat blast on them, or try out one of these other aliens. Max pulled the RV off the main highway onto a less traveled forest road. We need somewhere remote to figure this out. The campsite I planned won't be secluded enough. The road grew rougher, the rust bucket bouncing over potholes and uneven terrain. Trees closed in on both sides, creating a natural tunnel. After 20 minutes of increasingly difficult driving, they emerged into a clearing beside a lake, mountains rising majestically in the background. This should work, Max said, parking the RV isolated, good visibility in case anything approaches. Ben was already heading for the door. Great. Now I can try out some more aliens. Hold it, Max placed a firm hand on Ben's shoulder. First, ground rules. No transforming unless absolutely necessary. What? But, I'm serious, Ben. Every time you use that watch, you're sending out a signal that others can track. Like a beacon saying the Omnitrix is here. Ben blinked. You know it's called the Omnitrix. Max hesitated. Yes. I've heard rumors about it during my plumber days. Cool name, right? Ben grinned. I totally came up with it independently. Focus, Ben, Max urged. The point is, we need to lay low until I can contact some old colleagues who might be able to help. Gwen, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. So what do we do now? Just sit here and wait for alien bounty hunters to show up. For now, we set up camp and try to act normal, Max replied. I need to modify the rust bucket's communications system to reach orbital frequencies. Ben flopped onto the RV's bench seat, disappointment written across his face. This sucks. I get the coolest thing ever, and I'm not even allowed to use it. Think of it as a last resort, Max suggested, his tone softening. Like a secret weapon you save for when you really need it. Ben brightened slightly at that framing. Like in sumo slammers when Ishiyama only uses the dragon strike in the most desperate battles. Exactly, Max nodded, relieved to have found a reference point Ben understood. They set up camp with practiced efficiency, despite the unexpected location. Max worked on modifying the rust bucket satellite dish while the kids collected firewood. As dusk approached, they gathered around a campfire, roasting hot dogs on sticks. So, Gwen ventured, "Are you going to tell us more about these plumbers, Grandpa? Like, what kind of aliens did you deal with?" Max turned his hot dog slowly over the flames. "All kinds. The universe is full of different species, some peaceful, some, not so much. Any as cool as Heat Blast?" Ben asked through a mouthful of marshmallow. "Pyronites are certainly impressive," Max acknowledged. "But there are species with all sorts of abilities, super strength, speed, flight, telepathy, you name it." Ben studied the watch on his wrist. "I wonder how many aliens this thing lets me turn into." The Omnitrix was designed to contain DNA samples from thousands of sentient species, Max explained, then caught himself. "At least, that's what the rumors said." Gwen narrowed her eyes suspiciously. "You seem to know an awful lot about it for someone who just heard rumors." Before Max could respond, a distant humming sound drew their attention skyward. A streak of light cut across the darkening sky, vanishing behind the mountains. Another pod? Ben wondered, jumping to his feet. No, Max's voice was tight with tension. That was a scout ship. We've got company. The humming grew louder, and suddenly the source appeared over the treetops, a sleek, metallic craft unlike anything the children had seen before. It hovered above the clearing, searchlights sweeping the ground. "Inside the rust bucket, now," Max ordered, already dousing the fire. They scrambled toward the RV, but before they reached it, the alien craft fired a pulse of energy that struck the ground between them and their sanctuary. The shockwave knocked them off their feet. "Okay, I think this qualifies as necessary," Ben shouted, activating the Omnitrix. He cycled through the alien silhouettes, selected one that looked strong, and slammed down the dial. Green light flashed, and where Ben had stood now loomed a massive, four-armed, red-skinned alien with 4 yellow eyes and incredible musculature. "Whoa!" Ben's voice was deeper, resonating with power. "Check out these guns." The alien craft landed, and a ramp extended. A humanoid figure emerged, tall and insectoid, with green exoskeleton and multiple glowing eyes. "Relinquish the Omnitrix, human," the alien demanded, voice clicking and hissing. "It belongs to my employer." "Yeah. Well, it's stuck to me now, bug face." Ben flexed all 4 arms. "So come and get it." The alien hunter produced a staff that crackled with energy. "So be it." Ben charged forward, the ground shaking with each footfall of his massive new form. He swung a powerful fist, but the hunter was surprisingly agile, leaping over Ben's head and striking him from behind with the energy staff. Pain lanced through Ben's body, and he stumbled forward with a grunt. "Okay, that hurt. But I bet you can't dodge 4 fists at once." He spun around, arms whirling in a barrage of punches. The hunter blocked most with his staff, but one connected solidly, sending the alien flying backward into a tree. Meanwhile, Max had pulled Gwen toward the rust bucket. "Stay here," he instructed, before rushing to a hidden compartment in the RV's exterior. He punched in a code and retrieved a strange-looking gun. The hunter recovered quickly, firing energy blasts from his staff. Ben dodged awkwardly, still unused to his new form's bulk and weight. "Stand still, abomination," the hunter snarled. "Abomination?" Ben laughed, though the insult stung unexpectedly. "Look who's talking, Mr. Six Eyes." The hunter's next blast caught Ben square in the chest, sending him crashing into the lake. Water exploded upward in a massive splash. For a moment, nothing happened, then Ben erupted from the depths with a roar, all 4 fists clenched. "That does it." No more Mr. Nice forearms. He leapt forward, covering an impossible distance, and landed directly in front of the startled hunter. Before the alien could react, Ben grabbed the energy staff with 2 hands and snapped it like a twig. With his remaining hands, he lifted the hunter off the ground. Now, you want to tell me who sent you, or should I see if you can skip across that lake like a stone? The hunter struggled in Ben's grip. You don't know what you possess, child. The power of the Omnitrix is not meant for primitive Earth creatures. Put him down, Ben, Max called, approaching with the strange weapon aimed at the hunter. I know how to handle this. Ben hesitated, then set the hunter down but kept one massive hand on his shoulder. You know this bug, Grandpa? He's a galvanic mercenary, Max explained. They work for whoever pays them enough. Isn't that right? The hunter hissed. Maxwell Tennyson. The rumors of your retirement were apparently true. You've grown soft. Soft enough to let you go if you answer some questions, Max replied evenly. Who hired you? The hunter's compound eyes flickered between Max, Ben, and the weapon. Information costs extra. Max pressed the barrel of his weapon against the hunter's exoskeleton. Your life is the currency here. Gwen gasped from her position by the RV, never having seen this side of her grandfather before. The hunter must have sensed Max wasn't bluffing. Very well. I was hired to retrieve the Omnitrix by a broker working for Vilgax. Max's face drained of color. The weapon lowered slightly in his hands. Vilgax? That's impossible. He's very much alive, the hunter interrupted. And most interested in the Omnitrix. Even more so now that I've transmitted visual confirmation of who possesses it. Ben felt a chill run through his four-armed body. What's that supposed to mean? The hunter's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Curious. Very curious. You truly don't know, do you? A sudden beeping from the Omnitrix symbol on Ben's shoulder drew everyone's attention. Red flashes replaced the steady green glow. What's happening? Ben asked, looking at the symbol in alarm. The Omnitrix is timing out, the hunter explained, sounding smug. You'll revert to human form momentarily. And then you'll be much easier to. Max fired his weapon. A pulse of blue energy struck the hunter, encasing him instantly in some sort of crystalline substance that froze him mid-sentence. Grandpa! Ben exclaimed, just as a final beep sounded and green light enveloped him. When it faded, he was human again, staring up at the now immobilized alien. That was awesome. What did you do to him? Cryonic suspension, Max said tersely, already moving toward the hunter's ship. It won't hold him forever. We need to disable his ship and get moving. Wait, Gwen called, joining them. What was he talking about? Why did he act weird about Ben having the watch? Max avoided her gaze, busy examining the alien craft's exterior. Just trying to get in our heads. These mercenary types use psychological tactics. Ben rubbed his wrist where the Omnitrix sat, currently inactive with a red instead of green display. He seemed pretty surprised to see me specifically. And he mentioned this Vilgax person like you should be worried. Max found what he was looking for, an access panel on the ship's underside. He pulled tools from his pocket and began disabling systems with practiced ease. Vilgax is a warlord, he explained while working. One of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. If he's after the Omnitrix, that's concerning. But why would seeing me with it surprise the bug guy? Ben pressed. Max's hands stilled momentarily. He took a deep breath, then continued working. I don't know, Ben. But we'll figure it out. Ben and Gwen exchanged looks, clearly not believing him. There, Max said, closing the panel. His communications and navigation systems are disabled. Even when he thaws out, he won't be following us or calling for backup anytime soon. So what now? Gwen asked. Now we really need to move. Max headed for the rust bucket. If one hunter found us, others won't be far behind. As they boarded the RV, Ben glanced back at the frozen alien and the disabled spacecraft. Something about this whole situation felt off. Grandpa Max knew way more than he was letting on, about the Omnitrix, about aliens, about this Vilgax person. And somehow, Ben couldn't shake the feeling that it all connected directly to him. They drove through the night, Max's eyes constantly checking the rearview mirror while Ben and Gwen dozed fitfully in their bunks. Dawn found them parked on a remote mesa in what Ben guessed was somewhere in New Mexico or Arizona. Red rock formation stretched to the horizon in all directions. Ben woke to find the Omnitrix had reset, its display glowing green once more. He slipped out of his bunk, careful not to wake Gwen, and found Max outside the RV, using a modified laptop to scan the skies. "Morning, Grandpa," Ben yawned. "Any more alien hunters?" Max shook his head. "Nothing yet. But they'll come." He nodded toward the watch. "I see it's recharged." "Yeah." Ben examined it eagerly. "I want to try some of the other aliens. For arms was cool, but I bet the others have awesome powers too." Max sighed, closing the laptop. "Ben, we need to talk." Something in his grandfather's tone made Ben drop his enthusiasm. "Sounds serious." "It is." Max gestured to a rock formation nearby. "Let's sit." They settled on a flat boulder overlooking the vast desert landscape. For several long moments, Max just stared at the horizon, seemingly gathering his thoughts. "You know," he finally said, "I had this whole summer planned out. Just a nice, normal road trip with my grandkids. Fishing, camping, seeing the sights. I thought I'd left all the alien business behind me years ago." Ben fidgeted with the Omnitrix. "Sorry I messed up your plans by finding this." "No," Max placed a hand on Ben's shoulder. "That's not what I meant. The truth is, Ben, I should have told you certain things a long time ago. The watch finding you, it wasn't a coincidence." Ben's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Max looked pained. The Omnitrix was designed to interface with specific DNA signatures. It's programmed to seek out compatible hosts. And your DNA is special. Special how? Because I'm related to you, and you were a plumber. Partly that, yes. Max took a deep breath. But also because you're not fully human, Ben. The words hung in the air like physical things. Ben stared at his grandfather, waiting for the punchline to what had to be a joke. When none came, he laughed nervously. "Very funny, Grandpa. What am I, half Martian or something?" "Not Martian," Max said quietly. "Your biological father isn't from Earth." Ben's laughter died. "What?" "But Dad is human. He's boring. He sells insurance and watches golf on weekends. Carl is your adoptive father, Ben. He and Sandra took you in as their own when you were just a baby. They're your parents in every way that matters." "No way," Ben stood up, backing away. "You're making this up. Why would you say something like that?" "Because you deserve the truth," Max replied, sorrow etching lines in his weathered face. "Especially now that the Omnitrix has found you. The hunter yesterday, he recognized something about you. Something I hoped no one ever would." "Recognized what?" Ben demanded, voice cracking. His heart hammered in his chest, the world seeming to tilt beneath him. Max stood too, approaching Ben carefully like he might bolt. "There's a reason you took to the transformation so naturally, why you can control those alien forms with such instinct. Your biological father, he's not just any alien, Ben." A strange sensation crept up Ben's spine, not quite déjà vu, but a certainty that whatever Max was about to say, some part of him already knew it. "Your father is Vilgax," Max said finally, the name falling between them like a physical weight. Ben's knees buckled. He sat down hard on the rocky ground, dust puffing around him. The warlord? The one who's coming for the Omnitrix. That's crazy. It's true. Your mother was a plumber, like me. One of the best. During a diplomatic mission 16 years ago, she met Vilgax, before he became the conqueror he is now. He was different then, the newly appointed leader of his people. They fell in love. But why didn't she keep me? Why didn't she tell me? Ben's voice was small, childlike. Max knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. There were complications. Political unrest on Vilgax's homeworld. When rebels targeted their leader's human consort, your mother fled to Earth for your safety. She asked me to find you a home, somewhere you could grow up normal, protected. And my real mom? Where is she now? Max's expression grew even heavier. She returned to try and reason with Vilgax after he began his campaign of conquest. She believed she could remind him of who he once was. She never came back. Ben stared at the Omnitrix, seeing it with new eyes. So when this fell from space and attached to me, it recognized your DNA, half human, half chimera sui generis. Vilgax's species. Does he know? About me, I mean. Max shook his head. Your mother never told him she was pregnant. She feared it would make you a target in the power struggles on his world. But now, with the Hunter's transmission. He knows, Ben finished. Or he will soon. The magnitude of the revelation washed over Ben in waves. He wasn't fully human. His real father was an alien warlord. And not just any alien, the very one now hunting for the device attached to Ben's wrist. Is that why I could transform so easily? Because I'm already part alien? Max nodded. The Omnitrix works by temporarily rewriting the user's DNA. For a full human, it's a complete overwrite. For you, it's more of a reconfiguration. Your hybrid nature makes you uniquely suited to its function. Ben stood slowly, legs still shaky. So what do we do now? Now, Max said grimly, we prepare. Because Vilgax will be coming. Not just for the Omnitrix anymore, but for you. As if summoned by the words, the Omnitrix suddenly lit up brighter than before. A holographic projection appeared above it, not an alien silhouette this time, but a star map. What's it doing? Ben asked, staring at the projection. Max studied the map with growing concern. It's showing us something in Earth's orbit. Something that wasn't there yesterday. The projection zoomed in on a massive vessel hovering just beyond Earth's atmosphere. The design was unlike the Hunter's ship, spikier, more ominous, with a distinctive silhouette that made Max inhale sharply. Is that Vilgax's ship? Max confirmed. He's here. The Omnitrix's projection changed, displaying a countdown timer. What's that mean? Ben asked, though somehow he already knew. He's coming, Max said quietly. Coming for you. Inside the rust bucket, Gwen struggled to process everything Max had just explained. Ben sat silently at the table, staring at the Omnitrix with an unreadable expression. So Ben's half alien, and his real dad is this space warlord who's now orbiting Earth? Gwen summarized. And I thought finding out Santa wasn't real was a rough childhood revelation. Gwen, Max chided gently. Sorry, she mumbled, glancing at Ben. It's just a lot to take in. Tell me about it, Ben muttered. Yesterday my biggest problem was being bored on summer vacation. Now I'm some kind of alien hybrid whose biological father is probably going to invade Earth. Max busied himself preparing the RV's defenses, systems Ben and Gwen hadn't even known existed until now. Panels slid aside revealing control consoles, weapons emerged from hidden compartments, and Max programmed coordinates into what appeared to be a modified GPS system. We're heading to an old plumber base, he explained. Underground facility with communications equipment that can reach orbiting ships. Maybe we can talk to Vilgax before things escalate. Talk to him? Ben's head snapped up. About what? Hey, sorry we kept your son's secret for 10 years, but could you please not conquer our planet? Ben, Max said firmly, this situation is complicated, but we need to stay focused. Vilgax was once a reasonable leader. If there's any part of that man still inside him. But you said he's a warlord now. A conqueror. People change, Max replied, his expression softening. Sometimes they just need a reminder of who they once were. Something in Max's tone made Ben wonder if he was talking about more than just Vilgax. Before he could ask, the Omnitrix beeped again, the countdown timer accelerating. That can't be good, Gwen observed. A mechanical whine filled the air, growing louder by the second. They rushed to the windows to see a smaller craft descending from the sky, sleeker and more menacing than the hunter's ship from the previous day. Proximity probe, Max identified it. Automated scout. Vilgax sends them ahead to assess situations. The probe hovered above the mesa, scanning the area with sweeping red beams. When the light passed over the rust bucket, it intensified, focused. It's locked onto us, Max said, sliding into the driver's seat. Hang on. He fired up the engine and floored the accelerator. The RV lurched forward, tires spinning in the loose soil before finding purchase. The probe immediately gave chase, flying low behind them. Can't this thing go any faster? Gwen cried, watching the probe gain on them through the rear window. I'm giving it all she's got. Max shouted back, navigating the rough terrain at dangerous speeds. Ben, I hate to ask this, but, on it. Ben was already activating the Omnitrix, cycling through aliens. Come on, need something fast, something that can fly. He selected a silhouette and slammed down the dial. Green light flashed throughout the RV. Where Ben had been standing now hovered a blue-skinned, moth-like alien with large green eyes and 2 pairs of wings that beat rapidly, keeping him aloft inside the bouncing vehicle. Whoa, his voice had a buzzing quality to it. What can this guy do? As if in answer to his question, Ben suddenly felt a tingling sensation. His wings beat faster, and a cloud of sparkling dust shed from them. Careful with that. Max warned. That species can produce various chemical compounds through those scales. Some are paralytic, others explosive. Sweet. Ben buzzed, heading for the RV's door. I'll handle the probe. You guys keep driving toward that plumber base. Ben, wait. Max called, but Ben had already phased through the door, literally passing through the solid matter. I can go intangible too. Ben's excitement grew as he discovered new abilities. This alien rocks. Outside, Ben faced the pursuing probe. It immediately adjusted course, sensors focusing on him, or more specifically, on the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Hey, robo-creep. Looking for this? Ben taunted, indicating the symbol. Come and get it. The probe fired a capture net. Ben went intangible, letting it pass harmlessly through him, then zoomed upward. The probe followed, just as he'd hoped, drawing it away from the rust bucket. Once high above the desert, Ben experimented with his dusty scales, releasing a cloud behind him. The probe flew straight through it, and the particles settled on its metallic surface. Immediately, the machine began to sputter and slow, its systems gumming up. Ha! Take that! Ben crowed, circling the failing probe. I'll call this guy Stinkfly. No, wait. Big Chill. Yeah, that sounds cooler. The probe made one last desperate attempt, firing an energy beam that caught Ben off guard. It struck him directly, sending him spiraling downward, wings temporarily stunned. He plummeted toward the desert floor, struggling to regain control. At the last moment, his wings responded, allowing him to pull up mere feet from impact. Ben breathed a sigh of relief, then gasped as the probe, despite its compromised systems, rammed him from behind. They crashed together into a sand dune, the impact sending Ben tumbling. The probe, damaged but functional, rose again, weapons targeting Ben. "Okay, round 2, Ben muttered, picking himself up. "Let's try something else." He concentrated, focusing on the tingling sensation in his chest. Suddenly, he exhaled a blast of freezing vapor that engulfed the probe, encasing it in ice. The machine dropped like a stone, shattering on impact with the ground. Whoa! Ice breath too. Best alien ever. His celebration was cut short by a massive shadow passing overhead. Ben looked up to see a much larger ship descending, at least 10 times the size of the probe, with weapons bristling from its hull. "That looks bad." The ship emitted a tractor beam, trying to capture Ben. He dodged, flying erratically to avoid the pull, but the beam adjusted, nearly catching him several times. Ben released more freezing vapor, attempting to disable the beam emitter, but the ice melted almost instantly against the ship's energy field. "I need backup," Ben realized, zooming toward where the rust bucket had been heading. He spotted the RV racing along a dirt road that wound through rock formations. As he approached, a panel on the roof slid open, revealing Max with some kind of shoulder-mounted weapon. "Ben! Duck!" Max shouted. Ben dove as Max fired. A missile streaked overhead, impacting against the pursuing ship's underside. The explosion rocked the vessel but didn't bring it down, though it did disable the tractor beam. Ben landed on the RV's roof, returning to solidity beside his grandfather. "Nice shot." "It won't keep them down long," Max warned, already reloading. "Get inside." They dropped through the roof hatch into the rust bucket, where Gwen was frantically typing on Max's laptop. "There's a cave system about a mile ahead," she reported. "Maybe we can lose them underground?" "Good thinking," Max nodded, returning to the driver's seat. "Ben, how's the Omnitrix?" "Still charged." Ben checked the symbol on his chest, which still glowed green. "Looks like it. This form must use less energy than the others." "Moth sapien biology is naturally efficient," Max explained, flooring the accelerator. "They evolved to cover vast distances in space." Ben hovered near the ceiling, still getting used to his new form's abilities. "You really know a lot about aliens, Grandpa." "More than I ever wanted you kids to know about," Max admitted. "But maybe that was a mistake. If I'd prepared you better, we're coming up on the caves." Gwen interrupted. Ahead, a dark opening loomed in a cliff face, just barely large enough for the rust bucket to squeeze through. Max aimed straight for it. "Hang on." The RV scraped against rock as they entered the cave, metal shrieking in protest. Darkness enveloped them immediately, the headlights providing the only illumination. Behind them, the pursuing ship halted, too large to follow. "Ha! Eat our dust, alien jerks." Gwen cheered, peering out the rear window. "Don't celebrate yet," Max cautioned, navigating the narrow tunnel by memory more than sight. "They'll send in ground troops." As if on cue, the Omnitrix symbol on Ben's chest began blinking red. "Oh. Time's running out on this form." "It's okay," Max assured him. "We're almost to the rust bucket's front end suddenly dropped, tires spinning in empty air. Max slammed on the brakes, but momentum carried them forward. The headlights revealed what they'd almost driven into, a massive underground chasm, stretching away into darkness. "Reverse! Reverse!" Gwen screamed. Max tried, but the RV was already tipping forward, its front wheels over the edge. "It's no use. We're going over." Ben didn't hesitate. Even as the Omnitrix timed out and green light engulfed him, he launched himself forward, phasing through the front windshield. His moth-like form disappeared mid-transformation, replaced by human Ben hanging in open air as the rust bucket tilted into the abyss. "No!" he cried, reaching helplessly as gravity took hold. And then something strange happened. As Ben began to fall, he felt a surge of energy from within, not from the Omnitrix, but from himself. His arm shot out instinctively, and what emerged wasn't his human hand but a tentacle-like appendage that stretched impossibly, wrapping around a rocky outcropping above. The tentacle held firm, suspending Ben above the chasm. Equally shocking, his other arm transformed as well, elongating toward the falling RV. This tentacle wrapped around the vehicle's front bumper, arresting its descent. "What's happening to me?" Ben gasped, his body straining between the anchor point and the RV's weight. Inside the rust bucket, Max and Gwen stared in disbelief through the windshield at Ben's transformed arms. "His chimera sui generis DNA," Max whispered. "It's expressing itself." With strength he didn't know he possessed, Ben pulled, dragging the rust bucket back from the brink until its rear wheels found purchase on solid ground. Only when the vehicle was safely away from the edge did his arms return to normal human appearance, the tentacles retracting into regular limbs. Ben collapsed to his knees, gasping. Max and Gwen rushed from the RV to his side. "Ben! Are you okay?" Gwen knelt beside him, genuine concern overriding her usual sarcasm. I don't know," Ben stared at his hands, now perfectly human again. "What just happened?" Max helped him to his feet. "Your alien DNA asserted itself under extreme stress. It's been dormant your whole life, but the Omnitrix's energy might have awakened it. So I can do alien stuff even without the watch." Ben flexed his fingers, trying to make the transformation happen again, but nothing occurred. "Potentially," Max nodded. "But it would take time and practice to control. Right now, it's just responding to survival instinct." A distant rumbling interrupted them, the sound of drilling machinery. "They're boring through the cliffside," Max realized. "We need to keep moving." They returned to the rust bucket, Max directing them away from the chasm deeper into the cave system. As they drove, the headlights occasionally illuminated strange markings on the walls, symbols that didn't look human. "What are those?" Gwen asked, pointing. "Old plumber navigational signs," Max explained. "This entire cave system was mapped decades ago as an emergency evacuation route. If we follow them, they should lead us to the hidden base." Ben sat quietly, still processing what had happened. He'd transformed partially into his alien form, his father's form, without the Omnitrix. The implications were both exciting and terrifying. Was he more alien than human? Would he eventually transform permanently? And most troubling of all, was he becoming like Vilgax? As if sensing his thoughts, Max spoke up. "Ben, what happened back there was incredible. You saved us all. But what if it means I'm turning into him?" "DNA isn't destiny, Ben," Max said firmly. "I knew your mother. She was one of the kindest, bravest people I've ever met. That's in you too." Ben nodded, not entirely convinced but grateful for the reassurance. The cave eventually widened into a massive underground chamber. Max navigated to what appeared to be a dead end, then pressed a sequence of buttons on a hidden panel in the RV's dashboard. The rock wall ahead shimmered and disappeared, revealing a high-tech doorway. "Holographic concealment," Max explained as the door slid open. "Welcome to Plumber Base 7 Zeta." They drove into a cavernous hangar filled with dust-covered equipment and vehicles. The door sealed behind them, security systems activating with hums and beeps. "This place has been abandoned for years," Max said, powering down the rust bucket. "But the backup generators should still work." He approached a control panel and activated the base's systems. Lights flickered on throughout the facility, illuminating what looked like a small underground city. Computer terminals, living quarters, laboratories, and what appeared to be a medical bay filled the space. "Whoa," Gwen breathed. "The men in black have nothing on this." Max headed straight for the communications center, a circular room dominated by a large holographic projector. "If we can get this working, we might be able to contact Vilgax's ship directly. As Max worked on the ancient systems, Ben wandered the base, taking in the alien technology. He found himself drawn to a particular laboratory where specimen containers lined the walls. Inside one, he spotted something that made his heart skip, a preserved creature that looked like a smaller, less intimidating version of the alien he'd seen in his recent dreams. Tentacled face, muscular body, green skin. Is this? He called to Max. Max joined him, sighing when he saw what had caught Ben's attention. Yes. That's a juvenile chimera sui generis. Vilgax's species, and half of yours. Ben stared at the preserved specimen, searching for any resemblance to himself. I don't look anything like that. Your human DNA is dominant in your physical appearance, Max explained. But as we saw earlier, the chimera sui generis traits are there beneath the surface. Enhanced strength, regenerative abilities, and apparently, tentacle transformation under stress. So I'm like a half-squid person. Ben tried to joke, but his voice cracked. You're Ben Tennyson, Max said firmly, placing both hands on Ben's shoulders. Nothing has changed about who you are. You've just learned something new about where you came from. A sudden alarm blared throughout the base. Gwen came running from the direction of the communications room. Something's broadcasting a signal directly to us, she reported. It broke through all the security protocols. They rushed back to the comm center, where the holographic projector had activated on its own. A face materialized above it, green-skinned with red eyes, tentacles where a human would have a mouth, and an expression of unmistakable authority. Vilgax. Attention Earth facility, the alien warlord's voice boomed through the speakers. I know you harbor the Omnitrix. Surrender it immediately, or face the consequences. Max stepped forward. Vilgax. It's been a long time. The projection focused on Max, the red eyes narrowing. Maxwell Tennyson. I should have known you'd be involved in this theft. No theft occurred, Max replied calmly. The Omnitrix chose its wielder, as it was designed to do. Vilgax's tentacles twitched with irritation. A temporary setback. My forces will retrieve it shortly, along with whatever human child currently possesses it. My hunters have already tracked you to your hiding place. Ben stepped forward, an inexplicable impulse driving him. They can try. The holographic eyes shifted, focusing on Ben with an intensity that made him shiver. For a long moment, Vilgax simply stared, his expression unreadable. Then, almost imperceptibly, something changed in those alien features, a recognition, a confusion. You, Vilgax finally said, his booming voice somehow softer. What is your designation, human child? Before Max could intervene, Ben lifted his chin defiantly. Ben Tennyson. Tennyson, Vilgax repeated, glancing between Ben and Max, another of the old man's kin. Yet you are different. Ben felt the strange energy within him stirring again, responding to Vilgax's presence even through a hologram. His right hand trembled, and he clenched it into a fist to still the sensation. Vilgax noticed the movement. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly. Interesting, he said. Perhaps I should come retrieve the Omnitrix personally. The hologram vanished abruptly, leaving them in silence broken only by the hum of machinery. He knows, Ben said quietly. He could tell I'm, like him. Max nodded grimly. Which means we have even less time than I thought. Vilgax won't send hunters now, he'll come himself. Is that better or worse? Gwen asked. Both, Max replied, already moving toward the base's weapons locker. Better because he'll want to talk first. Worse because if talking fails, he's nearly unstoppable in combat. Ben looked down at the Omnitrix, which had recharged during their conversation. Not if I can help it. I've got the most powerful device in the universe, remember? It's not just about power, Ben, Max cautioned. Vilgax has conquered worlds. He's tactically brilliant and ruthlessly efficient. And he's my father, Ben added, the words still strange on his tongue. Does that mean anything to him? Would he hurt his own kid? Max hesitated. The Vilgax I knew 16 years ago? No. The warlord he's become? I don't know. The base's perimeter alarms suddenly blared to life. Security monitors showed drilling machines breaking through the cavern walls, followed by robotic drones pouring into the outer chambers. They're here, Gwen said unnecessarily, fear evident in her voice. Max tossed Ben and Gwen strange-looking devices. Emergency teleporters. If things go bad, press the center button. They're keyed to your DNA signatures, they'll take you to safety. What about you? Ben demanded. I'll be right behind you, Max promised, though something in his eyes made Ben doubt it. But first, we face this together. As a family. They took positions near the main entrance to the command center. Max wielded two plumber weapons, a blaster in one hand and what looked like a grenade launcher in the other. Gwen found cover behind a console, armed with a smaller blaster Max had shown her how to use. Ben activated the Omnitrix, ready to transform. The blast doors shuddered under heavy impact. Something was forcing its way through. Remember, Ben, Max said quietly. No matter what happens, no matter what you learn about yourself or your heritage, you choose who you become. Not your DNA, not the Omnitrix, and not Vilgax. Ben nodded, swallowing hard. I know who I am, Grandpa. I'm Ben Tennyson. And nobody messes with my family. The doors burst inward with a screech of tortured metal. Smoke billowed into the room, obscuring their view momentarily. As it cleared, a massive silhouette appeared, taller and broader than any human, with glowing red eyes piercing the haze. Vilgax stepped into the command center, and Ben felt his breath catch. The alien warlord was imposing in person, 7 feet tall at least, with cybernetic enhancements covering portions of his body. He wore armor that seemed to pulse with energy, and his face, while similar to the specimen Ben had seen, was scarred and weathered. Yet despite the fearsome appearance, Ben felt that strange connection again, a pull in his DNA recognizing something familiar in this alien being. Vilgax's forces remained in the corridor behind him. The warlord entered alone, his gaze immediately finding Ben. So, Vilgax rumbled, the Omnitrix has bonded to a human child. How disappointing. Max stepped partially in front of Ben. That's far enough, Vilgax. Max Tennyson. Still interfering in matters beyond your comprehension. Vilgax's attention remained fixed on Ben. Step aside. My business is with the boy. Your business is with me, Max countered, raising his weapons. Ben is under my protection. Vilgax's tentacles twitched in what might have been amusement. Protection? You've kept him ignorant and unprepared. The Omnitrix is the most powerful device in the galaxy, and you let a child stumble upon it. It wasn't chance, Ben spoke up, stepping out from behind Max despite his grandfather's attempt to keep him back. The Omnitrix chose me specifically. Because of my DNA. Vilgax's eyes narrowed. Impossible. The device was calibrated for, he stopped abruptly, studying Ben more closely. Unless, no. It cannot be. Ben felt the energy surge within him again, stronger this time. His right arm transformed before he could stop it, the limb elongating and taking on a greenish hue, fingers becoming tentacle-like appendages. Vilgax staggered back as if physically struck. What trickery is this? No trick, Max said quietly. Ben is your son. The command center fell silent. Even the robotic drones in the corridor seemed to still. Vilgax stared at Ben's transformed arm, then at his face, searching for resemblance. Lies, Vilgax finally hissed, though his voice lacked conviction. Xylene never, she didn't tell you, Max interrupted. She was protecting him, from your enemies, and from what you were becoming. My son would not be raised as a weak human, Vilgax snarled, though his gaze never left Ben. He would be a conqueror, a warrior worthy of my legacy. I'm standing right here, Ben said, frustration overcoming his fear. And I'm not weak. To prove his point, he slammed down the Omnitrix dial. Green light engulfed him, and where Ben had stood now towered a crystalline being with diamond-hard skin that gleamed in the base's lights. Whoa! Ben's voice had a reverberating quality in this form. This guy feels strong. Vilgax's eyes widened in genuine surprise. A Petrosapien form? The Omnitrix truly works for you. There's more where that came from, Ben replied, raising crystalline fists. So maybe think twice about attacking us. Vilgax studied him for a long moment, then did something unexpected, he deactivated his weapons systems. The energy pulsing through his armor dimmed, and he took a step back. Perhaps. We should talk, the warlord said, his tone less threatening than before. There is much that requires explanation. Max lowered his weapon slightly, though he remained tense. You're willing to listen. I am willing to verify this extraordinary claim, Vilgax clarified. If the boy truly carries my genetic signature, there are implications. Ben looked to Max, unsure how to proceed. His grandfather nodded slightly, a signal to follow his instincts. Okay, Ben agreed, maintaining his crystalline form. Let's talk. But your robot army stays outside. Vilgax made a gesture, and the drones retreated from the doorway. Acceptable. And so began the strangest family reunion in the history of two worlds, a human-raised boy discovering his alien heritage, a grandfather revealing decades of secrets, and a galactic conqueror confronting the possibility that his legacy might take a form he never imagined. As they talked through the night, the stars wheeled overhead, unaware that the fate of multiple worlds hung in the balance of this unexpected conversation. Chapter 2, Blood of Conquerors. Dawn broke over the hidden plumber base, painting the few visible screens with pale light. Ben sat across from Vilgax at a large conference table, still processing everything he'd learned during their hours-long conversation. Max and Gwen flanked Ben, while two of Vilgax's robotic sentries stood silently by the door. So my mom was this badass space cop named Xylene, Ben summarized, tapping his fingers against the table. She met you during peace negotiations, you guys fell for each other, and then civil war broke out on your planet. Vilgax nodded, his tentacles moving slightly with the motion. Xylene was exceptional. She saw potential for alliance where others saw only differences. And she never told you she was pregnant? Ben pressed, still struggling with this part. Never. Something like regret flickered in Vilgax's red eyes. By the time she fled, the rebellion had already turned violent. My opponents targeted anyone connected to me. She likely believed keeping you hidden was the only way to ensure your safety. Max cleared his throat. She came to me because we'd worked together for years. Asked me to find Ben a safe home, away from interstellar politics. With your son and his wife, Vilgax concluded. Hiding him in plain sight as a human child. Ben stared at his hands, normal human hands now, though he knew the alien DNA lurked just beneath the surface. Why didn't anyone ever tell me? I had a right to know who I really am. We planned to, Max said softly. When you were older. Better able to understand. Finding the Omnitrix accelerated the timeline, Vilgax added. His massive form looked almost comical seated at the human-sized table, yet he maintained a regal bearing. The device recognized your hybrid DNA. It was created to interface with multiple species, but your unique genetic structure makes you optimal. Lucky me, Ben muttered. Gwen, who had remained uncharacteristically quiet through most of the discussion, finally spoke up. So what happens now? You just found out you have a son. Are you planning to take Ben back to your planet? Turn him into your heir or something? Vilgax regarded Gwen with what might have been approval. Direct. I see why Tennyson brought you along. His attention returned to Ben. The discovery of my offspring changes, calculations. I came for the Omnitrix. I remain for the son I never knew existed. That doesn't answer my question, Gwen pressed. Because I have not yet determined the answer, Vilgax replied honestly. The boy possesses untapped potential, chimera sway generous abilities that have clearly begun to manifest, combined with the power of the Omnitrix. Ben isn't a weapon or a tool, Max interjected firmly. He's a 10-year-old kid who just had his entire world turned upside down. Ben slapped his palms against the table, surprising everyone. Hello. I'm right here. Stop talking about me like I'm not in the room. Vilgax's eyes narrowed, but not in anger, something closer to assessment. You have spirit. Good. That comes from both your mother and me. Look, Ben said, trying to sort through his jumbled emotions, this is all super weird. Yesterday I thought I was just a normal kid. Today I find out I'm half alien, my real dad is some galactic warlord, and apparently I can do all sorts of crazy stuff even without this watch. I need time to process. Time is a luxury rarely afforded in galactic affairs, Vilgax stated. Word of your existence will spread quickly. The son of Vilgax, wielder of the Omnitrix, you have become the most valuable target in 5 sectors overnight. Max's expression darkened. He's right, Ben. Once news gets out, every bounty hunter, rival warlord, and power-hungry faction will be coming for you. Great. Ben slumped in his chair. So I've got a giant target on my back now. You have me, Vilgax said simply. And while Tennyson and I have our differences, his combat experience is not insignificant. You will need training, both in your inherent abilities and in using the Omnitrix effectively. Training sounds good, Ben agreed cautiously. But I'm not becoming some conquering space overlord, just so we're clear. Vilgax's tentacles twitched in what Ben was starting to recognize as amusement. Your mother would approve of that stipulation. A sharp beeping interrupted their conversation. One of Vilgax's robotic sentries approached, projecting a holographic display. Multiple vessels have entered Earth's atmosphere, Vilgax announced, studying the projection. Not mine. Already? Gwen gasped. How could anyone know about Ben so quickly? The mercenary who discovered Ben transmitted visuals before we neutralized him, Max explained grimly. And Vilgax's arrival at Earth wouldn't go unnoticed. Vilgax stood, his full height impressive even in the spacious command center. The Omnitrix alone would draw attention. Combined with rumors of my heir, the response is predictable. Ben activated the Omnitrix, cycling through alien silhouettes. So we fight them off. Show them they can't push us around. Ben, Max cautioned, this isn't a game. These will be experienced warriors with advanced technology. Which is why he requires immediate training, Vilgax stated. Beginning now. 2 hours later, Ben crashed into a training mat for what felt like the 100th time. Sweat soaked his shirt as he glared up at Vilgax, who stood impassively in the plumber base's gymnasium. Again, Vilgax commanded. Transform and attack. I've been trying. Ben protested, climbing to his feet. None of my aliens can touch you. Because you rely on brute strength rather than strategy. The Omnitrix's power is wasted if wielded without thought. Ben wiped sweat from his forehead. Fine. One more try. He activated the Omnitrix, selecting the crystalline form he'd used before. Green light flashed, and Ben became the diamond-skinned alien once more. Diamond Head versus the Big Squid, Ben quipped, forming his right arm into a crystalline blade. Round 12. Fight. He charged forward, but instead of attacking head-on as before, he fired crystal shards at Vilgax's feet. The warlord easily sidestepped, exactly as Ben anticipated. Mid-run, Ben slammed his fists into the ground, creating a wave of crystal that rushed toward Vilgax's new position. Vilgax leapt over the crystal wave, and directly into Ben's follow-up attack as he launched himself upward, both fists formed into hammers. But Vilgax was faster than his bulk suggested. He twisted in mid-air, catching Ben's wrists and using the boy's momentum to fling him across the room. Ben crashed into the wall, crystal fragments scattering. Ugh, didn't see that coming. Better, Vilgax acknowledged. You attempted misdirection. But your emotions still betray your intentions. I see the attack in your eyes before your body moves. Well, sorry I'm not a perfect warrior after 2 hours of training, Ben grumbled, pushing himself up. Vilgax approached, looming over Ben's crystalline form. You misunderstand. I do not expect perfection. I expect improvement. And you have shown it. Ben blinked in surprise. Oh. Thanks, I guess. A slow beeping indicated the Omnitrix timing out. Green light flashed, returning Ben to human form, the exertion immediately hitting him harder. Enough combat training for now, Vilgax decided. We must address your Chimera Sui Generis abilities. You mean the tentacle arms thing? That just happened on its own when we were in danger. Because your instincts activated dormant genetic traits, Vilgax explained. With practice, you can access these abilities at will. How? Ben asked, curiosity overcoming his fatigue. Focus on the sensation you felt when the transformation occurred. The energy flow within your body. Ben closed his eyes, remembering the strange tingling that had preceded his arms changing. He concentrated on that feeling, trying to recreate it. Good, Vilgax's voice seemed distant as Ben focused. Now direct that energy to your right arm. The tingling intensified, becoming almost uncomfortable. Ben gritted his teeth, pushing the sensation toward his arm as instructed. I can feel something, he managed. Like pins and needles, but weirder. Do not force it, Vilgax advised. Allow the transformation to flow naturally. Ben relaxed slightly, letting the energy move at its own pace. Suddenly, the tingling gave way to a rushing sensation, and he gasped as his arm elongated, the skin taking on a greenish hue. I did it! Ben exclaimed, opening his eyes to see his transformed arm. It wasn't fully like Vilgax's, more of a hybrid between human and Chimera Sui Generis anatomy, but definitely not human. Impressive for a first conscious attempt, Vilgax noted. With practice, you will gain greater control and more abilities. Ben flexed his transformed arm, marveling at the strength he could feel in it. What else can I do? Chimera Sui Generis possess enhanced strength, regenerative capabilities, limited shape-shifting, and natural adaptability to hostile environments, Vilgax listed. Some, through training, develop energy projection abilities. Energy projection? Like shooting lasers? Ben's eyes widened with excitement. Similar, though based in bioenergy rather than technology. The door to the gymnasium slid open, revealing Max and Gwen. They stopped short at the sight of Ben's transformed arm. Ben! Gwen exclaimed. Your arm is all slimy looking. It's not slimy, Ben defended, though he wasn't entirely sure. It's alien cool. Max approached cautiously. You're controlling the transformation now? Ben nodded proudly. Vilgax showed me how to tap into it. Check this out. He concentrated again, attempting to extend his transformed arm further. It stretched several feet, the fingers becoming more tentacle-like. Then, attempting to show off, he tried retracting it quickly, only for the transformation to destabilize. His arm snapped back painfully, reverting to human form with a flash of green energy. Ow! Ben clutched his now normal arm. That hurt. Control requires practice, Vilgax stated. You pushed beyond your current capabilities. Max frowned. Are these transformations safe for him? He's still growing. His hybrid physiology is more resilient than a full human's, Vilgax replied. The discomfort is temporary. I'm fine, Grandpa, Ben insisted, already recovering. Just overdid it. Gwen crossed her arms skeptically. So we're all cool with Squid Dad teaching Ben to become Mini Squid? Gwen, Max cautioned. What? Someone has to point out how weird this is. She gestured between Ben and Vilgax. Yesterday he was trying to capture Ben and steal the Omnitrix. Today he's Dad of the Year. Your concern is logical, Vilgax acknowledged, surprising everyone. I have not earned your trust. My priorities have shifted with the discovery of my offspring, but that does not erase past actions. At least you admit it, Gwen muttered. Max cleared his throat. We've picked up transmission chatter. 3 separate vessels have landed within a 100-mile radius. They're searching systematically, using energy scanners calibrated to the Omnitrix's signature. Then we must move, Vilgax decided. This facility, while well hidden, cannot shield the Omnitrix's energy indefinitely. Move where? Ben asked. Back to the rust bucket. My ship, Vilgax stated. Its defensive capabilities far exceed anything available on Earth. Max shook his head immediately. No way. I'm not letting Ben leave Earth. I am not suggesting permanent relocation, Vilgax clarified. Merely tactical withdrawal until the immediate threat is assessed. It's still off-planet, Max argued. Once Ben's there, what guarantee do we have that you won't just take off with him? Vilgax's eyes narrowed. You forget, Tennyson, he is my son. I have more right to him than you. Biologically, maybe, Max countered. But I've been there for him his entire life. You showed up yesterday. The tension in the room thickened. Ben looked between his grandfather and his biological father, anxiety building in his chest. Stop it, he finally shouted. Both of you. I'm not a toy you get to fight over. Both adults fell silent, turning to Ben with surprised expressions. I get that this is complicated, Ben continued, his voice steadier. But there are aliens hunting us right now, and we need a plan that doesn't involve you two arguing over who gets custody of me. Vilgax regarded Ben with something approaching respect. The boy speaks wisdom. What about a compromise? Gwen suggested. We go to Vilgax's ship temporarily, but we all stay together, Ben, me, and Grandpa Max. First sign of trouble, we leave. Max considered this. We'd need guaranteed safe passage back to Earth whenever we choose. Acceptable, Vilgax agreed after a moment. My ship's shuttle bay remains accessible at all times. Ben looked at Max, Grandpa. What do you think? Max sighed heavily. I think we're running out of options. The hunters will find this base eventually, and will be cornered. So we go to space. Ben couldn't hide his excitement despite the circumstances. Actual outer space. Temporarily, Max emphasized, giving Vilgax a pointed look. Just until we figure out a long-term solution. I can arrange transport within the hour, Vilgax stated. Pack whatever essentials you require. As the adults continued discussing details, Ben and Gwen stepped aside for a private conversation. Are you okay with all this? Gwen asked quietly. Finding out Vilgax is your dad, going to his spaceship. Ben rubbed the back of his neck. Honestly? I have no idea. It's all happening so fast. But I'm trying to roll with it. You seem to be handling it pretty well, she observed. What choice do I have? Freaking out won't help. Ben glanced at his wrist, where the Omnitrix sat innocuously. Besides, this isn't all bad. I've got superpowers, a cool alien dad, who's also a galactic warlord with enemies everywhere, Gwen reminded him. Yeah, there's that, Ben acknowledged. But still, space, Gwen. We're going to space. Gwen couldn't help smiling at his enthusiasm. Just promise me you won't go full alien prince and forget you're still a doofus from Earth, okay? As if you'd let me, Ben grinned. The transport to Vilgax's orbiting warship wasn't the sleek shuttle Ben had imagined. Instead, they were beamed aboard using teleportation technology that made Ben's stomach turn inside out and his molecules feel scrambled. That was, ugh, Ben groaned as they materialized in a massive hangar bay. Way less fun than it looks in movies. You'll adapt, Vilgax stated, already striding toward a corridor. Your hybrid physiology gives you advantages in recovery time. The warship's interior was intimidating, all metal surfaces, pulsing energy conduits, and minimal lighting that cast long shadows. Robot drones moved purposefully throughout, performing maintenance and security functions. Everything was built to Vilgax's scale, making the humans feel small and vulnerable. Welcome to the Chimerian Hammer, Vilgax announced. The flagship of my fleet and the most advanced warship in this sector. Cheery place, Gwen commented dryly. Really loving the doom and gloom aesthetic. Vilgax either missed or ignored the sarcasm. The ship is designed for efficiency and combat readiness, not comfort. However, I have allocated quarters for your stay that should meet your biological needs. He led them through winding corridors to a section that appeared recently modified. The rooms here were smaller, more appropriately sized for humans, with actual furniture instead of the utilitarian equipment elsewhere. You prepared for us? Max asked suspiciously. I made arrangements while you packed, Vilgax clarified. My drones are efficient. Ben explored the space, 3 connected rooms with sleeping areas, a common space, and what appeared to be bathroom facilities adapted for human use. Not bad, he admitted. Better than the rust bucket's bunks. Hey! Max protested. No offense, Grandpa. A holographic screen activated in the center of the common room, displaying Earth below them. The blue-green planet looked peaceful from orbit, giving no indication of the hunters searching its surface. Whoa, Ben breathed, approaching the display. That's actually Earth. We're really in space. Indeed. Vilgax manipulated controls on his gauntlet, zooming the display to show 3 vessels of varying designs moving across North America. These are the ships we detected. Their search patterns indicate they are working independently, not as a coordinated force. Competitors, not allies, Max noted. That could work in our favor. Precisely. Vilgax turned to Ben. Now, we continue your training while we monitor the situation. More training. Ben groaned. I'm still sore from the last session. The hunters will not postpone their search because you are sore, Vilgax stated flatly. The Omnitrix should have recharged. Transform into something with enhanced agility this time. Ben sighed but activated the watch. He discovered a few new aliens during their earlier session, including one that seemed perfect for agility training. He selected it and pressed the dial. Green light flashed, and Ben transformed into a small, blue monkey-like alien with 4 arms, a tail, and wide green eyes. Spider monkey, he exclaimed in a chattering voice. Let's do this. Vilgax led them to a larger chamber that served as a training area. Unlike the plumber base's gymnasium, this room could reconfigure itself, creating obstacles, moving platforms, and combat drones on command. The objective is simple, Vilgax explained. Reach the far side without being tagged by the drones. Tennyson, you and the girl will observe from the control booth. Max looked ready to argue but caught Ben's eye and nodded reluctantly. He and Gwen moved to an elevated platform overlooking the training floor. Begin, Vilgax commanded. Instantly, the room transformed. Platforms rose and fell in seemingly random patterns. Barricades appeared and disappeared. Hovering drones activated, their sensors locking onto Ben. Geronimo. Spider Monkey leapt into action, his agility immediately apparent. He bounded between platforms, swung from overhangs using his tail, and contorted his small body through tight spaces. The drones fired harmless energy tags that would register hits without causing injury. Ben dodged most, his forearms allowing him to swing and propel himself with incredible coordination. Use your environment. Vilgax called out as Ben narrowly avoided a tag. The arachnicimp form can adhere to surfaces. It can. Ben tried pressing his hands against a vertical wall and found they stuck. Awesome. With this new knowledge, Ben's options multiplied. He scampered up walls, across ceilings, and around obstacles that would have stopped him before. His confidence grew with each successful maneuver. Perhaps overconfidence, because just as the exit came into view, Ben failed to notice a drone approaching from his blind spot. It tagged him squarely between the shoulder blades. Exercise failed, announced an automated voice. The obstacles retracted, returning the room to its empty state. "Aw man," Ben complained, dropping to the floor. "I was so close." Vilgax approached, his expression unreadable. "What was your error?" "I didn't see the drone coming from behind," Ben admitted. "Because?" Ben thought for a moment. "Because I was focused on the exit and stopped paying attention to my surroundings." "Correct." Vilgax nodded. Victory fixation is a common failing among inexperienced warriors. It creates tunnel vision. "I'll do better next time," Ben promised. "You will," Vilgax agreed. "Because you will run the exercise again. And again. Until success." And he did. 5 more attempts in the spider-monkey form, each ending in failure, though Ben got progressively closer to the exit. When the Omnitrix timed out, Vilgax insisted he continue in human form, focusing on his Chimera Sui Generis abilities. "I can't transform my whole body yet." Ben protested as a drone tagged him for the 3rd time as a human. "Then transform what you can," Vilgax countered. "Arms for climbing. Legs for jumping. Adapt." From the observation booth, Gwen watched with growing concern. "He's pushing Ben too hard," she whispered to Max. "Ben's exhausted." Max's expression was troubled. "I know. But Vilgax isn't wrong about the dangers they'll face. Ben needs to be prepared. He's 10. Gwen hissed. "He should be playing video games and riding bikes, not training for intergalactic warfare." Below, Ben had managed a partial transformation of both arms, using the elongated limbs to swing between platforms. He was adapting, learning, but his movements were increasingly sluggish. "I need a break," Ben finally called out, collapsing onto a platform. Sweat poured down his face, and his transformed arms trembled with fatigue. Vilgax studied him for a moment, then made a gesture. The drones deactivated, returning to their docking stations. "Acceptable progress for today," he declared. "Rest. Recover. We will continue tomorrow." As Ben's arms reverted to human form, Max and Gwen hurried from the observation booth to his side. Gwen offered a water bottle she'd brought, which Ben drained gratefully. "Thanks," he gasped. "I'm completely wiped." Max helped Ben to his feet. "Let's get you back to our quarters. You need food and rest." Vilgax watched this interaction with an unreadable expression. "The ship's galley has been stocked with Earth provisions. I will have sustenance delivered." "That's thoughtful," Max acknowledged, surprise evident in his voice. "The boy requires proper nutrition to recover efficiently," Vilgax stated pragmatically. "It is tactical, not sentimental." But something in the warlord's tone suggested otherwise. After a meal and several hours of much-needed sleep, Ben felt somewhat recovered. He sat in the common area of their quarters, idly experimenting with small transformations, changing just his fingers or portions of his arm, trying to gain finer control over his alien abilities. Gwen watched with fascination. "That's seriously creepy and cool at the same time." "I know, right?" Ben grinned, extending one finger to twice its normal length. "Check it out," he phoned home. Max entered from his adjoining room, looking troubled. "Ben, Gwen, you need to see this." He activated the holographic display, which showed a news broadcast from Earth. The footage depicted a small town with a crater where the town square had been. Emergency vehicles surrounded the area, and reporters spoke urgently into cameras. Unknown energy weapon struck without warning, the reporter was saying. Authorities are calling it a targeted meteorite strike, but sources indicate this may be connected to recent UFO sightings in the area. Where is this? Ben asked, the playful mood evaporating. Grover's Mill, Max replied grimly. About 20 miles from where we found the Omnitrix. The door to their quarters slid open, revealing Vilgax. You've seen the attack. Is this because of me? Ben asked, dread settling in his stomach. Yes. Vilgax didn't sugarcoat it. One of the hunters grew impatient. This is a provocation, an attempt to draw you out. They destroyed part of a town just to get my attention. Horror crept into Ben's voice. And they will destroy more if they believe it will achieve their objective, Vilgax confirmed. These are not beings constrained by human morality. Ben stood abruptly. We have to stop them. Agreed, Vilgax nodded. But not through reckless engagement. I have identified the responsible party, a Detrovite mercenary named Vulcanus. His species is known for brute force tactics and limited strategic thinking. Max studied the tactical display Vilgax brought up, showing the mercenary's ship. I've encountered Detrovites before. Nearly indestructible external armor, but vulnerable to sonic attacks and extreme temperature fluctuations. Your assessment aligns with my data, Vilgax acknowledged. The most efficient approach would be orbital bombardment of his vessel. Whoa, hold up, Ben interjected. You want to blow up his ship from space? Wouldn't that cause even more damage to Earth? It would be precisely targeted, Vilgax explained. Collateral damage would be minimal. But still some, Max pointed out. And it wouldn't stop the other hunters. They just see it as confirmation that Ben is off-planet and increase their provocations. Vilgax's tentacles twitched with irritation. What do you propose instead? We go down there, Ben said firmly. Face this Vulcanus guy directly. Show him and the others that attacking Earth to get to me is a bad idea. A confrontation on their terms increases risk unnecessarily, Vilgax argued. Maybe, Ben acknowledged. But blasting from orbit makes us look like we're hiding. I don't hide. Vilgax studied Ben for a long moment. You would endanger yourself to protect humans who are not even aware of your existence. They're innocent people, Ben replied simply. And yeah, I'm part alien, but Earth is still my home. Something shifted in Vilgax's expression, a recognition, perhaps even a memory. Xylene would say the same, he said quietly. Then, more decisively, very well. We will confront Vulcanus directly. But we do so with strategy and superior force. The planning session that followed was unlike anything Ben had experienced. Vilgax displayed holographic schematics of Detrovite physiology, weapons capabilities, and tactical analyses. Max contributed his plumber knowledge, suggesting approaches and countermeasures. Even Gwen participated, pointing out logical flaws in their plans with her sharp analytical mind. Ben absorbed it all, offering his own suggestions based on what he'd learned about the Omnitrix's aliens. By the time they finalized their approach, Ben felt like he'd learned more about strategic thinking than in his entire life combined. We move at Earth's dawn, Vilgax declared. Rest while you can. As the others prepared, Ben approached Vilgax privately. Can I ask you something? The warlord regarded him with curiosity. You may. You and my mom, Xylene. Was it? Ben struggled for words. Was it real? Or just some political thing? Vilgax was silent for so long that Ben thought he might not answer. Finally, he spoke, his deep voice softer than Ben had heard before. It was unexpected. Xylene came to negotiate a security treaty. She was formidable, uncompromising in her principles. We disagreed on nearly everything. A pause. And yet, I found myself anticipating our meetings, extending negotiations that should have concluded quickly. You really liked her, Ben realized. She challenged me, Vilgax corrected. Made me consider perspectives I had dismissed. In my position, such intellectual stimulation was rare. Another pause. When the rebellion began, I ordered her to leave for her safety. She refused, insisting on helping negotiate peace. When she finally departed, I believed it was because she had given up on me, on the possibility of peace. But really, she was protecting me, Ben said quietly. So it would seem. Vilgax's gaze grew distant. Had I known of your existence, perhaps my path would have been different. The vulnerability in that admission struck Ben deeply. For the first time, he saw Vilgax not as just a fearsome warlord, but as someone who had lost something precious without even knowing it existed. Well, Ben offered awkwardly, you know now. Better late than never, right? Vilgax refocused on Ben, something unreadable in his alien eyes. Indeed. Now rest, Ben. Tomorrow will test us both. The teleportation to Earth was no less nauseating the second time, but Ben was better prepared for it. They materialized in a wooded area outside the small town of Millfield, where Vulcanus's ship had landed according to their scans. Remember the plan, Max cautioned as they oriented themselves. Ben, you'll draw his attention with Heat Blast while Gwen and I flank his position to deploy the sonic disruptors. And I will remain concealed until the optimal moment to strike, Vilgax added, his massive form somehow blending into the shadows despite his size. He had donned additional armor for the confrontation, making him look even more intimidating. Ben activated the Omnitrix, selecting Heat Blast's silhouette. Time to fight fire with fire. The transformation washed over him, and seconds later, Heat Blast stood ready, flames flickering across his body. Let's do this. They moved through the forest toward the coordinates where Vulcanus's ship was hidden. As they approached, the trees thinned, revealing a massive crater. Within it sat a bulky, industrial-looking vessel, clearly designed for mining operations rather than speed or stealth. Detrovites often double as planetary resource extractors, Max explained quietly. They mine valuable minerals while pursuing bounties. So he's blowing up towns as a side hustle to his regular job. Heat Blast's flames burned hotter with anger. That's messed up. Focus, Vilgax commanded. Emotion clouds judgment. Ben took a deep breath, which caused small flames to shoot from his nostrils. Right. Stick to the plan. Max and Gwen circled to the right, carrying the sonic devices Vilgax had provided from his ship. Once they were in position, Ben stepped boldly into the clearing. Hey, rock for brains, he shouted, sending a fireball into the air that exploded like a flare. Looking for me? For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a grinding of metal, a hatch opened in the ship's side. A massive figure emerged, easily 9 feet tall with orange-gold armor covering a hulking frame. His face was disproportionately small compared to his body, set in a permanent scowl. Well, Vulcanus rumbled, his voice grating like stones grinding together. The Omnitrix bearer comes to me. Saves me the trouble of leveling another human settlement. Yeah, about that, Heat Blast called back, flames intensifying around his fists. Not cool, dude. Those were innocent people. Vulcanus laughed, the sound like an avalanche. Innocent, guilty, irrelevant. They served their purpose. And now you'll serve mine. The Omnitrix will fetch a handsome price. You'll have to take it from me first. Ben challenged. With pleasure. Vulcanus raised his massive fists, which transformed into what looked like pile drivers. The Detrovite charged with surprising speed for his size. Ben leapt into the air, using Heat Blast's fire powers to propel himself higher than humanly possible. From above, he rained down fireballs on his attacker. Vulcanus barely seemed to notice the impacts. A pyronite? Against a detrovite? He laughed again. Our armor is forged in the hearts of dying stars. Your flames are a minor irritant at best. Good thing I'm very irritating. Ben shot back, continuing the aerial bombardment while leading Vulcanus toward where Max and Gwen waited with the sonic devices. The detrovite pursued relentlessly, his pile-driver fists smashing through trees and boulders in his path. When he got close enough, he leapt with unexpected agility, catching Ben's ankle mid-flight. Gotcha! Vulcanus snarled, yanking Ben downward and slamming him into the ground with enough force to create a small crater. Pain shot through Ben's fiery body. While Heat Blast was durable, the impact still stunned him. Vulcanus loomed overhead, one massive foot pinning Ben to the ground. Not much of a challenge, the bounty hunter gloated. Now, let's see about removing that watch. A high-pitched whine cut through the air as Max and Gwen activated the sonic disruptors. The devices emitted frequencies specifically calibrated to detrovite armor, causing it to vibrate at its resonant frequency. Vulcanus staggered back, clutching at his armor as it began to shudder and crack. What is this? Science, Ben quipped, rolling away and regaining his feet. Ever heard of it? The sonic attack continued, spiderwebbing cracks appearing across Vulcanus's armor. He roared in rage and pain, turning toward the source of the attack. Insignificant pests. He charged toward Max and Gwen's position. I'll crush you first, then the boy. This was the moment they'd planned for. Ben concentrated, pushing Heat Blast's powers to their limit. He created a massive fireball between his hands, compressed it until it glowed white-hot, then hurled it directly at the largest crack in Vulcanus's back armor. The superheated plasma struck precisely on target. While the armor itself was heat-resistant, the cracks created by the sonic attack provided vulnerability. The fireball penetrated, causing Vulcanus to howl in genuine pain. The detrovite spun around, his face contorted with fury. You'll pay for that with your life. He charged again, but this time with less coordination, his movements hampered by the damaged armor. Ben continued his aerial evasion, leading Vulcanus in circles while Max and Gwen maintained the sonic assault from multiple positions, moving as planned to avoid being targeted. But Vulcanus was still dangerous. One lucky swing caught Ben as he swooped too close, sending him crashing through several trees before he came to a stop, dazed and weakened. The Omnitrix symbol on his chest began to flash red, he was running out of time in this form. And Vulcanus was already charging toward him again, pile-driver fists raised for a finishing blow. End of the line, Omnitrix Kid. The blow never landed. A massive green and black form intercepted Vulcanus mid-charge, catching the pile-driver fists in hands of equal strength. You dare attack my son? Vilgax snarled, his voice terrifying in its controlled rage. Vulcanus's small face registered shock. Vilgax. What, your son? Impossible. With a display of raw power, Vilgax twisted, breaking one of Vulcanus's pile-driver attachments clean off. The detrovite howled, stumbling backward. The Omnitrix belongs to my bloodline now, Vilgax declared. Remember that, if you survive to spread the word. What followed was a demonstration of combat prowess that left Ben awestruck. Despite Vulcanus's legendary durability, Vilgax systematically dismantled him, targeting the weakened points in his armor with precision strikes, using leverage instead of just brute force, and anticipating every counter-move before it happened. Within minutes, Vulcanus lay defeated, his armor in pieces around him, revealing a surprisingly small body within. The armor apparently housed most of the detrovite's mass. Vilgax stood over the fallen bounty hunter, raising a clawed hand for a final strike. Wait! Ben called out, the Omnitrix having timed out, returning him to human form. Don't kill him. Vilgax paused, looking at Ben with surprise. He attacked a human settlement. Attempted to take the Omnitrix. By galactic law, these are capital offenses. Maybe, Ben acknowledged, approaching cautiously. But killing him won't undo what he did. And it won't stop others from coming. It will serve as a warning, Vilgax countered. So will defeating him without killing him, Ben argued. It shows we're better than they are. That we have, what did you call it? Options beyond brute force. Vilgax studied Ben for a long moment, then lowered his hand. Your mother's influence is strong in you. It wasn't said as a criticism. Max and Gwen joined them, Max keeping his blaster trained on the fallen Vulcanus. What do we do with him? Gwen asked. I can contain him, Max suggested. Contact the plumbers for pickup. Unnecessary, Vilgax stated. My ship can hold him securely until he can be delivered to the proper authorities. Ben looked between them, then down at Vulcanus. First, we make him send a message. A message? Max questioned. Ben nodded. To any other bounty hunters or whoever else is looking for me and the Omnitrix. They need to know that attacking Earth or innocent people will only get them what Vulcanus got. A sound strategy, Vilgax approved, something like pride in his voice. They forced the defeated Vulcanus to broadcast a warning using his ship's communication system. The message was simple but effective. The Omnitrix bearer was under the protection of both Vilgax and the plumbers. Any further attacks on Earth would be met with immediate and decisive response. As they prepared to return to Vilgax's ship, the defeated bounty hunter spoke up from where he was being restrained. This changes nothing, he growled. The price on the Omnitrix just went up when word gets out it's wielded by Vilgax's spawn. And the faction will pay anything to acquire it now. Ben frowned. The faction? What's that? Trouble, Max said grimly before Vulcanus could respond. A coalition of warlords and technology brokers. If they're involved. Then this is merely the beginning, Vilgax finished, his expression darkening. The faction possesses resources that make Vulcanus look insignificant by comparison. Great, Ben sighed. Just when I thought we'd caught a break. Vulcanus laughed, a grating sound despite his diminished state. Break? Kid, your problems are just starting. The faction doesn't just want the Omnitrix now, they'll want you. Vilgax's heir with the most powerful device in the galaxy. You're the ultimate prize. Ben felt a chill despite the warmth of the day. Well, they'll have to get through me to get it. And as you just found out, that's not so easy. Brave words, Vulcanus sneered. But the faction employs beings that would make your worst nightmares seem pleasant. You think I'm bad? Wait until you meet a cerebrocrustacean assassin, or a pterorangula hunter, or, enough, Vilgax interrupted, lifting Vulcanus by his throat. Your attempts at psychological warfare are as clumsy as your combat techniques. They teleported back to the ship with their prisoner, leaving Vulcanus's vessel to be dealt with by plumber cleanup crews Max contacted. As they materialized in the Chimerian Hammer's teleportation bay, Ben couldn't shake the bounty hunter's warning. The faction. Something about the name itself seemed ominous, and the reactions of both Max and Vilgax suggested this was a threat on another level entirely. Back in their quarters, Max paced anxiously while Gwen researched the faction on a data terminal Vilgax had provided. Ben sat cross-legged on the floor, practicing the small transformations Vilgax had taught him, partly as training, partly to distract himself from worrying. The faction originated as a trade consortium, Gwen reported, reading from the screen. But evolved into a powerful alliance of technology brokers, arms dealers, and planetary warlords. They specialize in acquiring and weaponizing alien tech. She looked up grimly. The Omnitrix would be their holy grail. It gets worse, Max added. The faction doesn't just want technology, they want control. If they learn that Ben is Vilgax's son and has the Omnitrix, they might see him as a way to either control Vilgax or replace him in the galactic power structure. Ben's concentration broke, his partially transformed hand returning to normal. Replace him? What does that mean? Max hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Vilgax controls significant territory and resources. The faction might see you as a more malleable alternative to your father. Someone they could influence or control. They think I'd work for them? Ben asked incredulously. They think you're a child who could be molded, Max clarified. Especially if they acquired you young enough. The implication sank in, making Ben's stomach turn. So they'd want to, what, kidnap me and brainwash me into being their puppet warlord? That would be one approach they might consider, came Vilgax's voice from the doorway. He entered, his expression grave. Though they would be severely disappointed in the results. What do you mean? Ben asked. You possess my genetic stubbornness, Vilgax stated matter-of-factly. And Xylene's moral conviction. You would not be easily molded, regardless of their methods. There was genuine confidence in the assessment, not just paternal pride, but a tactical evaluation. Ben felt oddly reassured. Still, Max interjected, we can't ignore the threat. If the faction's involved, they won't stop with one bounty hunter. Agreed. Vilgax activated the room's holographic display, showing multiple ship movements around Earth. My sensors have detected increased activity. Word is spreading faster than anticipated. So what's our next move? Ben asked, standing up. We can't just keep fighting off bounty hunters one by one. Vilgax manipulated the display, zooming out to show a star map. We have options. We could relocate to a more defensible position, my homeworld or one of my fortress planets. That just postpones the problem, Max argued. And takes Ben further from Earth. Or, Vilgax continued, we could take more offensive action. Identify the faction's representatives coordinating this hunt and neutralize them. You mean kill them, Gwen translated bluntly. That would be most efficient, Vilgax acknowledged without apology. There's gotta be another option, Ben insisted. One that doesn't involve leaving Earth or assassinating people. Max rubbed his chin thoughtfully. What if we changed the equation entirely? Made Ben less of a target? Elaborate, Vilgax prompted. Right now, everyone's after Ben because he has the Omnitrix and he's Vilgax's son. Two unique assets in one person. Max paced as he developed the thought. What if we spread a different story? One that makes pursuing Ben less attractive? Like what? Gwen asked. Like. Max thought for a moment. Like the Omnitrix is bonded to Ben in a way that makes it useless to anyone else. That trying to remove it would destroy it. Ben held up his wrist. I mean, it is pretty stuck on here. And, Max continued, warming to the idea, we could suggest that Ben's hybrid DNA makes him unstable, dangerous to transport off-world. A disinformation campaign, Vilgax realized. Not without merit, though the faction has resources to verify such claims eventually. We don't need forever, Max pointed out. Just enough time to develop a more permanent solution. As they debated strategy, the ship's alarms suddenly blared. Vilgax accessed a console, his expression darkening. We have multiple incoming vessels, he reported. Formation and approach vector suggest coordinated attack. Already? Gwen exclaimed. How did they find us so quickly? Vulcanus must have managed to transmit our position before we captured him, Max guessed. No matter, Vilgax stated, already moving toward the door. My ship can handle such an assault easily. The floor shuddered beneath them as something impacted the Chimerian hammer's shields. That didn't feel like handling it easily, Ben commented nervously. Curious, Vilgax acknowledged, accessing another console. The attacking vessels are employing synchronized shield frequencies. They should not have such technology. Another impact, stronger this time. Alarms intensified. Shield integrity at 60%, announced an automated voice. Breach imminent in sectors 7 and 12. The faction, Max realized. This is too coordinated for independent bounty hunters. Vilgax's expression turned grim. Agreed. Remain here. I will handle this personally. Wait. Ben called as Vilgax headed for the door. Let me help. I can transform, fight alongside you. Vilgax paused, studying Ben for a moment. Your training is incomplete. Maybe, Ben acknowledged. But I'm a quick learner. And this is my fight too. Another impact rocked the ship. Shield integrity at 40%, the computer announced. Vilgax made his decision. Very well. But you follow my commands precisely. This is not training, it is actual combat against skilled opponents. Got it, Ben nodded, already activating the Omnitrix. Who should I use? Heat Blast? For arms. Choose something with range capabilities, Vilgax advised. The corridors will be confined spaces. Ben cycled through aliens until he found one he hadn't tried yet, a crystalline being similar to Diamond Head but with a different configuration. Let's see what this one can do. The transformation washed over him. When it completed, Ben stood taller than his human form, his body composed of green crystal with a sharp, angular design. Energy seemed to pulse within the crystalline structure. Whoa, he breathed, looking at his crystalline hands. This feels powerful. A Petrosapien, Vilgax identified. Excellent choice. They can project crystal shards as ranged weapons and reconfigure their limbs into various tools and weapons. Cool. Ben formed his right arm into a blade, then back to a hand. What should I call this one? The ship is under attack, and you're concerned with nomenclature? Vilgax asked incredulously. I like naming them, okay? Helps me keep track. Ben thought quickly. I'll go with Diamond Head. Fine. Diamond Head. Follow me, stay behind, and engage only when instructed. Vilgax turned to Max and Gwen. Remain in these quarters. The defenses here are stronger than elsewhere on the ship. Max grabbed a plumber weapon he'd brought from Earth. We can defend ourselves if needed. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Shield breach in Sector 12, the computer announced. Intruders detected. Let's go, Vilgax ordered, leading Ben from the room. The corridors of the Chimerian hammer had transformed from eerily quiet to chaotic. Warning lights flashed, drones rushed to defensive positions, and the distant sound of weapons fire echoed through the metallic passageways. My command center is 2 levels up, Vilgax explained as they moved. From there, I can coordinate the ship's defenses more effectively. What about the intruders? Ben asked, his crystalline form easily keeping pace with Vilgax's long strides. My drones will slow them. Our priority is reaching the command center. They turned a corner and immediately encountered resistance, 3 humanoid figures in advanced battle armor, wielding energy weapons. They opened fire the moment they spotted Vilgax. Vilgax moved with surprising speed for his size, dodging energy blasts while closing the distance. Ben reacted instinctively, forming his arms into crystal shields that deflected several shots meant for his father. Thanks, Vilgax acknowledged, engaging the first intruder in hand-to-hand combat. Don't mention it, Ben replied, focusing on the other 2 attackers. He remembered his training, looking for patterns in their movements. One fired repeatedly while the other circled, trying to flank him. Ben projected crystal shards from his palm, forcing the circling attacker to take cover, then charged the one providing covering fire. The intruder switched tactics, producing a vibroblade that hummed ominously. Ben formed his arm into a matching blade, and they clashed in the narrow corridor. The vibroblade bit into Ben's crystal arm, causing pain but not cutting through completely. Neat trick, Ben grunted, pushing back. Try this. He suddenly extended crystal spikes from his entire body, catching his opponent by surprise. The spikes penetrated the intruder's armor at joint sections, not deeply enough to cause serious injury but sufficient to immobilize them temporarily. Meanwhile, Vilgax had efficiently neutralized his opponent and moved on to the one Ben had forced into cover. The alien warlord's combat style was brutally effective, no wasted movement, no hesitation, just precise application of overwhelming force. Within moments, all three intruders were subdued. Vilgax didn't kill them, Ben noticed, perhaps in deference to Ben's earlier expressed wishes. Efficient, Vilgax approved of Ben's performance. But we must move quickly. These were merely the advance scouts. They continued toward the command center, encountering two more groups of intruders. Each time, Ben found himself working more smoothly alongside Vilgax, anticipating his movements and complementing his attacks. It was strange how natural it felt, almost like they'd trained together for years instead of days. Finally, they reached the command center, a massive chamber dominated by a central control console and surrounded by viewscreens showing various parts of the ship. Drone operators worked at stations around the perimeter, coordinating the defense. Status report, Vilgax commanded as they entered. Multiple breaches on 3 levels, reported a drone. Intruders are targeting primary systems and moving toward the human quarters. Ben's crystal heart seemed to skip a beat. Grandpa and Gwen. The quarters are secure, the drone assured. But intruders will reach that section within minutes at current progression rates. Vilgax assessed the tactical displays. They're using a standard faction infiltration pattern. Their primary objective appears to be capture rather than destruction. They want me, Ben realized. And the Omnitrix, Vilgax confirmed. Which means they will focus their elite forces on the human quarters, assuming you are there. We need to get back there. Ben insisted. No, Vilgax countered. We need to let them believe their intelligence is correct, then spring our own trap. Ben began to understand. You want to let them think I'm still in our quarters, then ambush them when they go after Grandpa and Gwen? Precisely. Your grandfather is more capable than his age suggests. He can hold the initial assault until we arrive from an unexpected direction. But if we're wrong, if they get to Grandpa and Gwen before we do. We won't be wrong, Vilgax stated with absolute confidence. I've fought the faction before. Their tactics are predictable once you understand their objectives. Ben wasn't entirely convinced but had to admit that Vilgax's strategic thinking had proven effective so far. So what's the plan? Vilgax outlined it quickly. They would circle around through maintenance tunnels, approaching the quarters from a direction the intruders wouldn't expect, while the ship's drones created diversions to slow the main assault force. As they moved through the narrow maintenance passages, Ben's crystalline form barely fitting in some sections, the ship continued to shake from external attacks. Who's attacking from outside while these guys board from inside? Ben asked. Coordinated strategy, Vilgax explained. The ships outside maintain pressure on our shields and weapons systems, preventing us from simply destroying them, while the boarding party accomplishes the primary objective. Getting me, Ben summarized grimly. Yes. The faction rarely commits resources of this magnitude unless they are certain of success. Vilgax paused, glancing at Ben. They clearly value you highly. Lucky me, Ben muttered. Then, after a moment's thought, why don't they come after you this way? You control whole planets, right? Wouldn't capturing you be an even bigger win? They have tried, Vilgax replied matter-of-factly. Those who attempted it no longer exist. Oh. Ben decided not to press for details. They emerged from the maintenance tunnel near their quarters. Immediately, they heard the sounds of combat, energy weapons discharging, impacts against barriers, and Gwen's distinctive shout of alarm. They've breached the outer defenses, Vilgax noted, moving more quickly. They rounded the final corner to find a chaotic scene. The door to their quarters had been forced open. Inside, Max was using overturned furniture as cover while exchanging fire with armored intruders. Gwen had taken refuge behind a console, occasionally throwing objects at attackers when they got too close to Max's position. What caught Ben's attention, however, was the figure directing the assault, taller than the others, with distinctive purple armor and a helmet that completely obscured its features. This one moved differently, with obvious authority. Psycho Boss, Vilgax identified the leader with obvious distaste. A cerebrocrustacean mercenary. Dangerous. That crab thing is the boss? Ben asked, eyeing the pincer-like appendages visible even through the armor. Do not underestimate him. Cerebrocrustaceans possess extraordinary intelligence and electrokinetic abilities. Before Ben could respond, Psycho Boss turned, somehow sensing their presence despite having his back to them. Ah, Vilgax, the mercenary's voice was cultured yet condescending, with a distinctive stutter on certain syllables. PP punctual as always. And I see you've brought the P prize directly to me. How considerate. Your arrogance remains intact, Psycho Boss, Vilgax replied coldly. As does your tendency to overestimate your capabilities. Is that what you think? Psycho Boss made a gesture, and suddenly the attacking forces redirected their fire toward Ben and Vilgax. I've studied your tactics for decades. Did you really think I wouldn't anticipate your Emma movements? Ben formed crystal shields from both arms, deflecting energy blasts while Vilgax charged forward, seemingly impervious to the attack striking his armor. Ben! Max called from his position. Be careful. Psycho Boss is a genius among geniuses, the cerebrocrustacean interrupted. And quite aware of the Petrosapien's weaknesses. He raised one armored claw, from which emerged a device that emitted a high-pitched sonic pulse. The sound hit Ben like a physical blow, sending vibrations through his crystalline body that threatened to shatter him from within. Gah! Ben dropped to one knee, his crystal form developing cracks across its surface. What is that? Resonance disruptor, Vilgax explained, trying to reach Psycho Boss but held back by concentrated fire from the other intruders. Designed specifically for crystalline life forms. The pain intensified as Psycho Boss adjusted the frequency. Ben felt his crystal body beginning to fracture more severely. In desperation, he tried to project shards at the device, but his control was compromised by the sonic attack. Surrender the Omnitrix, Psycho Boss demanded, and the PP pain stops immediately. Through the haze of agony, Ben spotted Gwen moving carefully along the perimeter of the room, unnoticed amid the chaos. She caught his eye briefly, making a subtle gesture toward a control panel on the wall, the environmental systems. Ben understood immediately. Gathering his remaining strength, he formed one arm into a blade and slammed it into the floor, sending a wave of crystal racing across the room, not toward Psycho Boss, but toward the panel Gwen had indicated. The crystal spike struck the environmental controls precisely, causing them to short-circuit. Instantly, the gravity in the room increased threefold, then fluctuated wildly. The sudden change caught the intruders by surprise, their movements becoming erratic as gravity shifted from crushing force to near zero in random patterns. Psycho Boss, however, adapted quickly, his armor apparently equipped with gravity compensators. Clever, but insufficient. The faction doesn't send me for trivial quarry. They made a mistake this time, Ben managed through gritted teeth, forcing himself back to his feet despite the pain from the resonance device. They sent you after my family. With a surge of determination, Ben did something he hadn't tried before. He transformed just his right arm back to human form while maintaining the crystalline structure everywhere else. The human arm, not affected by the resonance weapon, moved freely. He used it to activate the Omnitrix symbol on his chest. Green light washed over him as he transformed again, this time into a speed-based alien he discovered during training. The black and blue streak that was Ben now shot across the room faster than the eye could follow, snatching the resonance device from Psycho Boss before the cerebrocrustacean could react. What? Psycho Boss sputtered as Ben skidded to a stop on the other side of the room, crushing the device in his three-clawed hand. XLR-8 at your service, Ben quipped, his voice raspy and quick. Too slow, crab cake. The momentum shifted instantly. With Ben free to move at super speed and Vilgax no longer held back trying to reach him, they pressed their advantage. Ben disarmed the remaining intruders in seconds, while Vilgax engaged Psychoboss directly. The cerebrocrustacean proved surprisingly adept in combat despite his intellectual focus, his armor enhancing his physical capabilities and his electrokinetic powers creating dangerous energy fields around his claws. "You may have the advantage of BB brute strength," Psychoboss taunted as he blocked one of Vilgax's strikes, "but I calculated 16 different outcomes to this encounter, and victory is mine in TT12 of them." "Your calculations failed to account for one critical variable," Vilgax replied, pressing his attack. "And what might that be?" "Me." Ben zoomed in from behind, vibrating his arm at super speed to penetrate the armor's joints. The strike disabled Psychoboss's primary power coupling, causing his armor to lock up momentarily. That moment was all Vilgax needed. A devastating blow sent the cerebrocrustacean crashing into the wall, system sparking and failing across his armor. "Impossible," Psychoboss muttered as his helmet retracted, revealing his actual crab-like head with its oversized brain casing. "My calculations were perfect." "You calculated based on what you knew of me," Vilgax said, standing over him. "You knew nothing of my son." Ben zoomed to Max and Gwen's side, checking them for injuries. "Are you guys okay?" "We're fine," Max assured him, though a burn mark on his arm suggested otherwise. "You came just in time." The ship shuddered again, but less violently than before. "The external attack is weakening," Vilgax noted. "They're preparing to retreat now that their boarding party has failed." "Wait," Ben said, zipping back to where Psychoboss lay defeated. "Before you go running back to the faction, you should know something." The cerebrocrustacean glared at him hatefully. "And what would that be, child?" "I'm not just Vilgax's son," Ben stated boldly. "I'm Ben Tennyson. And if you or the faction come after me or my family again, what happened today will seem like a picnic compared to what we'll do next time." Psychoboss studied him with new interest. Perhaps I miscalculated after all." "The faction will be intrigued by this development." "Enough talk," Vilgax interrupted. "Contact your ships. Order them to withdraw. Now." Under the combined threat of Vilgax's strength and Ben's speed, Psychoboss complied, using his armor's communication system to order a general retreat. Within minutes, sensors confirmed the attacking ships were breaking orbit, withdrawing to a safe distance. "They're actually leaving?" Gwen asked suspiciously. "For now," Max confirmed, watching the tactical displays. "The faction doesn't waste resources on failed operations. They'll regroup, analyze what went wrong, and try a different approach next time." "But we'll be ready," Ben declared, the Omnitrix timing out and returning him to human form. The transformation left him exhausted but exhilarated from the victory. Vilgax regarded Ben with an expression that might almost be called pride. "Yes. We will." The aftermath of battle brought a strange sense of calm to the Chimerian hammer. Repair drones worked efficiently to mend damaged systems, while Vilgax's security forces contained the captured intruders, including Psychoboss, in the ship's brig. Ben sat in the medical bay, wincing as Gwen applied a healing salve to the residual bruising from his diamond-head form. The damage from the resonance weapon had transferred partially to his human body during transformation. "Ow. Easy with that stuff," he complained. "Don't be such a baby," Gwen retorted, though her touch gentled. "You're lucky you're not in pieces after what that crab guy did to you." "Yeah, well, he's the one in a cell now," Ben pointed out. "And we're still here." Max entered the medical bay, having concluded a long discussion with Vilgax regarding security arrangements. "How are you feeling, Ben?" "Sore, but okay," Ben replied honestly. "That Psychoboss guy knew exactly how to hurt Diamond Head. It was like he prepared specifically for me." "He had," Max confirmed grimly. "From what Vilgax and I pieced together, the faction has been studying the Omnitrix for years. They have countermeasures for most alien species it contains." "Great," Ben sighed. "So every time I transform, someone out there has a special weapon designed to take me down. Not every time, Max reassured him. And knowing their tactics gives us an advantage now. We can prepare countermeasures of our own. Ben nodded, though the thought of faceless enemies specifically preparing ways to defeat him was unsettling. So what happens next? The faction's still out there. They know who I am, where I am. Which is why we must accelerate your training, came Vilgax's voice as he entered the medical bay. Today's battle was illuminating. You adapted quickly, thought strategically, and demonstrated courage. But your opponents will only grow more challenging. He needs rest first, Max insisted. He's just a kid, Vilgax. A kid with the Omnitrix and half Chimera Sui Generis DNA, Vilgax countered. Rest, yes. But then we must continue. Ben looked between them, his grandfather and his biological father, and saw the genuine concern in both their expressions, different as it manifested. I can handle it, Ben assured them both. But maybe a few hours off first. That fight took a lot out of me. Vilgax nodded. A reasonable request. I will use the time to interrogate Psychoboss, learn what more I can about the faction's intentions. As Vilgax departed, Max sat beside Ben on the medical berth. You did good out there, Ben. Really good. Working alongside Vilgax like you've been training together for years. It felt natural, Ben admitted. Like some part of me just knew what to do. He glanced at the Omnitrix. Not just because of this, either. There were moments when I could anticipate what he would do next, how he would move. That's the Chimera Sui Generis connection, Max explained. Their species has certain instinctual combat patterns that are partially genetic. You've inherited some of that. Ben considered this. Is that why it was so easy to fight alongside him, but feels weird to just talk to him? Like, I don't know what to say half the time. Max chuckled. That's just father-son relationships in general, Ben. Alien DNA or not. If you're done bandaging the hero, Gwen interrupted, putting away the medical supplies, we should get something to eat. Saving the day always makes Ben even more obnoxiously hungry than usual. Food sounds amazing right now, Ben agreed, sliding off the berth. As they made their way to the galley, Ben found himself reflecting on the day's events. He'd fought alongside his alien father against a coordinated assault by advanced enemies. He'd discovered new alien forms and new ways to use his powers. And most surprisingly, he'd felt a connection with Vilgax that went beyond their brief training, something instinctual, genetic. Was this what it meant to accept his alien heritage? To find that some things just came naturally, like combat coordination with a father he barely knew? And if fighting alongside Vilgax felt so natural, what did that mean for Ben's future? The questions swirled in his mind as they reached the galley, but he pushed them aside for now. There would be time for deep thoughts later. Right now, he needed food, rest, and the comforting presence of the family he'd always known. Yet even as he joked with Gwen and listened to Max's stories about his plumber days, Ben couldn't help feeling that something fundamental had shifted inside him, a connection to his alien heritage that couldn't be ignored or denied. For better or worse, he wasn't just Ben Tennyson anymore. He was the son of Vilgax, wielder of the Omnitrix. And the galaxy had taken notice. The next morning cycle, as time was measured on the ship, Ben awoke to find Vilgax waiting in the common area of their quarters. The warlord stood before the holographic display, studying what appeared to be complex biological schematics. You're up early, Ben yawned, still in his pajamas. Or do you not sleep? Chimera Sui Generis require less rest than humans, Vilgax replied without looking away from the display. 4 hours is sufficient for full recovery. Lucky you, Ben mumbled, rubbing sleep from his eyes. What are you looking at? Vilgax gestured to the display. Your DNA structure. Fascinating hybrid configuration. Ben blinked, suddenly more awake. Wait, you took my DNA. When? During your medical examination yesterday. Standard procedure. Vilgax finally turned to face Ben. The results are unexpected. Something in Vilgax's tone made Ben uneasy. Unexpected how? Is something wrong with me? Not wrong. But your human and chimera sui generis DNA are not merely coexisting as I assumed. They are actively integrating at a cellular level. It appears the Omnitrix's transformative energy has accelerated the process. Ben tried to process this. So what does that mean? Am I going to turn into a chimera sui generis permanently? No, Vilgax assured him. But your hybrid abilities will likely continue to develop and strengthen. The partial transformations you've managed so far are merely the beginning. So I'll get stronger. Get more alien powers. Ben couldn't help the excitement in his voice. Potentially, Vilgax confirmed. But with increased manifestation comes increased responsibility. Control becomes crucial. Which means more training, Ben guessed. Correct. But today's training will be different. Vilgax deactivated the holographic display. I've interrogated Psychoboss. The information he provided suggests a new approach is necessary. What kind of information? Ben asked cautiously. The faction's interest in you extends beyond the Omnitrix, Vilgax explained. They believe your hybrid nature makes you uniquely valuable. A potential weapon. A weapon? Against what? Against me. Vilgax stated this matter-of-factly, though Ben detected an undercurrent of, was that concern? They theorize that your DNA connection to me could be exploited. Used to create biological weapons keyed to my genetic structure. Ben's eyes widened. They want my DNA to make weapons that would hurt you specifically? Among other applications, yes. That's messed up, Ben declared. Using a kid's DNA to attack their parent? The faction operates without conventional morality, Vilgax said simply. Which is why today's training will focus not on combat, but on protecting yourself from capture and DNA extraction. Max entered from his sleeping quarters, catching the end of the conversation. DNA extraction? What's going on? Vilgax explained the situation again while Ben tried to process the implications. The faction didn't just want the Omnitrix, they wanted him, his unique genetic structure, to use as a weapon against his own father. This changes our approach, Max said grimly after Vilgax finished. We need to consider long-term protection strategies for Ben. Such as? Vilgax prompted. Earth might not be safe anymore, Max admitted reluctantly. But neither is space, clearly. We need somewhere secure, somewhere with both human and alien protection. My fortress on Vilgaxia would be impenetrable, Vilgax suggested. Max shook his head. Too obvious a target. And too far from Ben's home and family. Ben listened to them debate options, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. They were talking about his future, where he would live, how he would be protected, all without asking what he wanted. Hey, he finally interrupted. Don't I get a say in this? Both adults turned to him, seemingly surprised by the outburst. Of course you do, Ben, Max assured him. Your input is relevant, Vilgax acknowledged, which Ben supposed was as close to agreement as he'd get. I don't want to hide, Ben stated firmly. Not on Earth, not on Vilgaxia, not anywhere. I've got the Omnitrix. I've got alien powers of my own. And I've got both of you. Instead of running and hiding, we should face the faction directly. Max looked concerned. Ben, the faction isn't just one enemy. It's a vast network of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. All the more reason to stand up to them, Ben argued. If we keep running, they'll keep chasing. But if we show them that coming after me only leads to defeat, like Vulcanus and Psychoboss, maybe they'll think twice. Vilgax studied Ben thoughtfully. Your strategy has merit, though it carries significant risk. Everything does, Ben pointed out. But at least this way I'm not living my life in a bubble, afraid of my own shadow. The boy makes a valid argument, Vilgax said to Max. Fear is a weapon that works only when the target allows it. By refusing to be intimidated, Ben denies the faction their psychological advantage. Max didn't look entirely convinced. It's not about fear, it's about reasonable precautions. Ben's only 10 years old. 10 years old with the most powerful device in the galaxy, Ben reminded him. Plus cool alien powers of my own. And you know what else? I've got a super smart cousin, a grandpa who's an ex-space cop, and a dad who's apparently scary enough that most aliens run when they hear his name. Vilgax's tentacles twitched in what Ben now recognized as amusement or approval. The child has confidence. Good. Confidence is one thing, Max sighed. Recklessness is another. It's not reckless if we plan carefully, Ben argued. You two are, like, the ultimate tag team of alien fighting experience. Between Grandpa's plumber tactics and Vilgax's, warlord strategies, we could totally take on the faction. Gwen emerged from her room, hair disheveled from sleep but eyes alert. What's all the shouting about? Are we fighting the faction now? Ben wants to take a stand instead of hiding, Max explained, still looking concerned. Gwen considered this for a moment. Good. Good. Max repeated in surprise. You agree with him? Well, yeah, Gwen shrugged. Ben with the Omnitrix is too powerful to just tuck away somewhere. And the longer we hide, the more the faction and everyone else will think they can intimidate us. Ben gave her a grateful look. See? Even Gwen gets it. Two children advocating for confrontation with the galaxy's most dangerous criminal organization, Vilgax observed. Remarkably similar to Xylene's approach to the Incursion standoff. Something in the way he said it suggested this wasn't criticism but recognition, perhaps even respect. Max rubbed his temples. I can see I'm outnumbered here. But if we do this, and that's still a big if, we do it with extensive planning and multiple contingencies. Agreed, Vilgax nodded. Proper strategy is essential. And training, Ben added. Lots more training, right? Indeed, Vilgax confirmed. Beginning after your nutritional intake. Ben's stomach growled on cue. Breakfast first, then more alien superhero. Something went wrong with this response, please try again. Take us to the next chapter now. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.